Welcome back to the O Show, everything crypto every day. I am your host with the most, WendyO. Make sure you guys subscribe, like all of that cringe stuff, but I got to say it. And I actually have a very special guest. I have Samouri. He is from Samouri Wallet. If you guys don't know what Samouri Wallet is, especially during these insane times, I highly recommend you listen to this entire interview. Follow them on Twitter. It's going to be really, really important, especially with all the things happening. How are you doing today, Samouri?
Really good to be here, Wendy. Thank you for inviting us over.
Awesome. So can you kind of just give us a brief summary of what Samouri Wallet is? And then after you do that, we're going to segue into some OPSEC topics, blockchain technology, how easy it is to track, and why people may consider wanting to stay a little bit private on the internet, especially when it comes to money.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just the most simple way of describing Samouri Wallet is it's a Bitcoin wallet, exclusively a Bitcoin wallet, with a very strong emphasis on transactional privacy. As you know, and as your viewers probably know, the Bitcoin blockchain is entirely transparent, and it's recorded forever, and anyone can take a look at it. So what we try to do with our wallet is create same defaults and introduce novel privacy features so users can obtain a very basic level of transaction privacy while they use Bitcoin.
Okay.
We started it in 2015 and we've been going nonstop since then.
Awesome. And so you mentioned something that's very interesting, that Bitcoin is public. And I feel like there's a big misconception. People think that you can stay anonymous and that you can use Bitcoin, all of those things. And I believe that that is true. But if you do try to cash your Bitcoin out, so let's say you and I, let's say you hire me for something. Let's say you hire me to walk your cat. And during that, you go ahead and you send me some Bitcoin to a cold storage address, like a paper wallet or ledger, whatever it is. I want to go ahead and cash that Bitcoin out into fiat because I have bills. Well, really the only way to kind of do that is to go to a centralized exchange. So I would take that Bitcoin that you sent me from that P2P transaction, I'd bring it to Coinbase or wherever it is to a centralized exchange, and then I would go cash it out, and then it can fully be tracked. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call that the off-ramp, right? And the on-ramp is where you buy your Bitcoin, which for most people is on a centralized exchange as well. The issue with the centralized exchange, besides the fact that they have custody of your coins for during that time and you have to trust them, is they also have your identity. You know, it's very likely when you signed up for Coinbase or whoever you signed up with, you provided your name, your ID, your social security number, your address, all this stuff to Coinbase, whatever centralized exchange you're using. So they know who you are without question. When you withdraw your Bitcoin from that centralized exchange into your cold wallet or your hot wallet, wherever you do, the centralized exchange still knows that you're in control of that coin. They knew that you withdrew it from there. So as you continue to spend within the Bitcoin network, it becomes a probability game, right? If the centralized exchange is watching what you're doing from that point forward, there's various heuristics and things they can employ to say, well, it's 90% likely that that's still the same person in control of these original coins that they bought from us. And that's where Samouri comes in, where we have these privacy enhancing features that is designed to take that probability down from 100%, 90% to something like 20, 30%, right? So there's a big question mark for anyone trying to track the progress of those coins. However, as you mentioned, when it's time to sell those coins, the off-ramp back into fiat, you're going to the centralized exchange and they have that information on you, as we already described. And they're going to be looking at the history of those coins. Where did you get them from? Were you doing anything that might be against their terms of service, right? And you could be doing something completely legal, absolutely nothing bad whatsoever, but it's against the terms of service of the centralized exchange, and you can get your account closed. So these are the challenges that we have with Bitcoin. It's a transparent system, and it's done that way for a reason. It's so you can audit the supply, and you know there's a emission schedule in terms of what Bitcoins are created and minted. Everyone knows what these are, and then the result of that is a transparent ledger. So it's a very interesting privacy challenge for users. You know, there are privacy coins, right? There's Monero, there's Zcash. There's a bunch of these things, but none of them have the network effect that Bitcoin has.
Right.
So we need to make the tools for Bitcoin.
So I have a question, because we're going to kind of segue into why why somebody might want to mix their coins. Me
Sure.
personally, after I pay my taxes, even though I am not interested in paying taxes, I don't like it. I think taxes are an absolute scam. I still like to pay my taxes because I don't want to get, I don't want to get gaffled up for anything silly. But I think that it's kind of okay if somebody wants to, kind of stay a little bit more private to mix their coins after they've gone ahead and they paid their taxes and they've done what they're supposed to do. Because realistically, because Bitcoin's network is public to an extent, you want to make sure that you're safe. You don't want people to know exactly how much Bitcoin you have or how much wealth you have, especially if you're someone that maybe bought Bitcoin in the early days, or let's say you made some really great trades and you were able to make a lot of Bitcoin, but you don't want people knowing how much you have, because we have the uncertainty and kind of the worrisome that, centralized exchanges are going to crack down, like what we're seeing coming out of Canada. But at the same time too, if somebody is super tech savvy and they're super tech smart, they can literally go to the Bitcoin network and they can see the ledger and they can see who holds what. And if you have a large amount of Bitcoin on one wallet, you can potentially become a target. I don't know how hard it is for somebody
Absolutely.
to track you down, but I feel like that might be, a little bit worrisome for someone.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I mean, I agree completely. So mixing or coin join, as we call it, there's nothing criminal about it whatsoever. No, there's not one country that has said it's a criminal act
Yet.
and it's yet, and it has nothing to do with tax evasion or anything like that. Look, we already said, if you've bought on a regulated centralized on ramp and sold on a regulated centralized off ramp, you better be filing your taxes correctly, because you better be believing those exchanges are reporting that to the IRS. They have to, right? So it's a question of tax evasion doesn't even enter it. Why would you mix that? Well, what you said is exactly correct. Let me bring it back to the existing fiat system, right? If I send you a payment through Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, I send you a donation, a $10 donation. You don't get to look inside my bank account. You don't know what my balance is. You don't know who I paid previously. You don't know who else I've donated to, right? That's the existing fiat system. Okay, so there's a layer of built-in privacy to the fiat system, and that privacy is built in via law and legislation. Okay, so there's a built-in, if your bank shared your transaction details with a third party, they would be in serious legal trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second thing to think about is when you go to withdraw cash from the ATM, right? You take your bank card, you pop it in that ATM, you say, I want $100. The bank knows you withdrew $100, right? They have no idea what you do with that $100 afterwards, because it's cash. Cash has a built-in fungibility, again, by law. These are legal applications that ensure transactional privacy, which is fundamental for any functioning economy and society. Bitcoin doesn't have that, and we don't have the luxury of law to enforce privacy. We have to come up with code-based and software-based solutions. CoinJoin or mixing is one of those solutions. I mix, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if I mix, I mix my coins. I have, my 10 Bitcoin. I say, okay, I'm going to mix it now because I need to make sure that, one, I'm not a target. People, I send a donation to Wendy, and now she knows I have 10 Bitcoins, and then she can see what else I've done, right? So we enter CoinJoin. So we break up that link, all those links. CoinJoin removes the past history from the future activity of your Bitcoin. It's, imagine your Bitcoin as like a gold coin, right? You can take that coin and you can smelt it down into 10 smaller coins, but you would from the same gold, and there would be no way that you would be able to tie those 10 coins, those 10 smaller coins you just smelted, to that original one coin. So you look at CoinJoin or mixing as like a smelter for your pieces of Bitcoin.
That's actually a really great explanation. And I didn't think of to explain it like that, but I think I'm actually going to use that. So thank you. But I kind of want to talk about what's happening on a global scale. And there are some words that we can or can't use. We have to be careful because of the algorithm. But basically, a government can do whatever it is they want to do. Governments are centralized bodies,
Yes.
guys. And basically, they come up with laws and regulations that they think can benefit the people. And that's, you can argue that yes or no, whatever it is. But realistically, some of these laws that are put in place can be enacted at any time. And during times of, I guess, unrest or uncertainty, if a centralized body has a problem with a single body, they can go ahead and enact these laws that could potentially freeze your assets. Me personally, I believe that money, having access to your finances, to your money, is a human right, just like having decent healthcare is a human right as well. And we're starting to see governments across the world exercise these powers because there's things that they kind of want to control, and it makes it kind of a scary place to operate. And we saw this coming out of Canada recently. So as far as mixing coins, how would that benefit somebody maybe accepting a donation in a place that needs some sort of financial support because of the peaceful activities that they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the act of mixing your coins would protect you as the person making the donation, because you wouldn't be able to tie your identity from the coins that you bought on exchange to the future activity, which is the donation to the Canadian truckers. So your identity would be protected, and it would protect the person receiving the donation as well, because if they mix their coins, then likewise, there would be no association to future activity. So the issue in Canada, at least from the Bitcoin perspective, the Bitcoin side of things, was a group on Twitter created a crowd fund for the Canadian truckers. And it was at this time they created it completely legal to do so. They created a crowd fund and they received Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin, I think over 14 Bitcoin, to a single address associated with their identities on Twitter. So they published a Bitcoin address on Twitter saying, send donations here and we'll make sure it gets to the truckers. Again, the Bitcoin ledger is completely transparent. So anyone can look at that address and see how many Bitcoins they received and then what happened to those Bitcoins. The issue came into place when it became time to disperse those donations. The government of Canada made that a questionable legal activity to do so. And the people that received those Bitcoins to donate to the truckers were based in Canada, and associated their identity to those coins. So they had to make a choice. How do we distribute these coins without going to jail? If they would have moved those coins into a coin join, then no one would have been able to track what they did with those coins from that point forward. And there's nothing to say that they can't legally enter into a coin join in Canada, right? So the question, the distribution of those donations would have been much smoother had they done that. But it can be even simpler. The fact that they used a static address made it incredibly trivial to track what was happening. In Samouri, we have a feature called Paynim, which is, if you're a Monero user, it's the same thing as a stealth address. That means you can share a static piece of text. It's a little bit longer than a Bitcoin address. And people who have this feature enabled in their wallet can send donations to that long static address. And only the two people, the donator and the recipient of the donation, can derive those addresses and view those addresses. So there's no starting point to even begin an analysis. And if the fundraisers used that instead of just a static Bitcoin address, all of their problems would have been solved.
Okay, very interesting. And also, guys, I don't want to make this like a political thing at all. The reason why we're having this conversation is because it's an important conversation to be had. And to me, this is education regarding Bitcoin. I know that there's a lot of brand new people in the space, and I'm still learning things myself, even though I've been in since end of 2017. And Bitcoin is kind of hard to understand in some cases, especially if you don't come from a tech savvy background. So this conversation is important to have because I feel like the future for many people on a global level is uncertain. There's people that live in, even before all of these crazy things happen the last couple of years, there's people from all over the world that are suffering that can potentially go through some very terrible things that do need access to funding. And people that do want to go ahead and donate to these people that do need access, they might, you don't want to be tracked. You don't want to get in trouble by any governments. You don't want to be held liable for simply believing in something and want to help out. And my personal opinion is when we're talking about Bitcoin, when we're talking about decentralization, it's very important to note that I don't get to tell Samouri what's right or wrong, and they don't get to tell me what's right or wrong. The moral and the point of Bitcoin is for people to be able to operate in a truly decentralized economy. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's a whole entire purpose of Bitcoin, is to be able to facilitate these transactions, send money back and forth. And, even though it is somewhat public, we kind of want to still be able to remain private to a certain extent. I think that's important. And also too, you don't want to, if you donate to something that you feel strongly about and that local government is not supporting it, you don't want to get hit, and you don't want to get, some subpoenaed or whatever it is and have your account, all of your money get locked, because we're seeing that happen in Canada. And you don't want that to happen to that other person. So services like coin mixing are immensely important, especially when you're dealing with very, very volatile regimes that are coming up and, that are impeding on people's human rights. So
I agree. It's not a political issue at all. It has nothing to do with what side of the decision you're on this or that. As you said a little while ago, the freedom to transact is a fundamental freedom. It's a freedom of speech issue. If you're not able to transact freely, you're not able to act freely. That's the most actionable form of speech is transaction. So take away politics from it. And, maybe one of your viewers is like, I really disagree with the protests that happened in Canada. I don't want to encourage that. Fine, continue to have that opinion. But when the tables turns and it's something that you care about and the regime changes and now they're targeting something that you care about, you're going to wish that you had that transactional privacy. So it's like freedom of speech. You have to be for freedom of speech for things you agree with and things you disagree with. Everyone has to have that ability. Same with transacting. So, and if it doesn't serve the most marginalized and the most targeted person, it's not going to serve you.
I agree 100%. And I'm actually speaking with somebody who's working with domestic violence survivors on the importance of Bitcoin and how that could potentially keep them safe. And that's another hot topic. That's something a lot of people don't want to talk about. But when you're talking about somebody who survived sexual abuse or domestic violence, whether they're in the United States or some other place, and they need to have access to their money, there's a lot of control that is done in those types of situations where sometimes a survivor's finances can be impacted by somebody that's controlling them. And I think that Bitcoin is a really great solution for that, especially when you're able to mix them, because you're able to have access to money, but keep it somewhat private to where no one can take it from you or freeze your account. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that up. I know it's a hard topic to talk about, but I wanted to bring it up because there are some people that this could potentially, this is a service that could potentially help them. But kind of in closing here, as far as OPSEC goes, do you have any tips and tricks that you want to discuss with the audience? Maybe whether it be utilizing paper wallets as opposed to using a Ledger Trezor, because I personally believe that paper wallets are a little bit safer than Ledger Trezor and you have more ownership. Because
it's a controversial opinion and I'm right with you. Honestly, I'm right with you.
Yeah, because I mean, really, like Ledgers and Trezors are great, but essentially they're kind of like third-party systems in a way, because you have to kind of have the software to access them.
Yeah. And look, the future of money, if that's what Bitcoin is not going to rely on a USB dongle. Let's be real, right? Like that is some old tech. You don't need anything other than 12 words that your wallet will display to you to hold your Bitcoin, right? So you can write down those 12 words, you can etch those 12 words into metal, you can do whatever you want with those 12 words, but that's how you can back up your Bitcoin, quote unquote. OPSEC stuff, I mean, I think I think your users would be well advised to just consider the information that they put out onto the internet. Realize that it lasts forever, just like the blockchain, right? So be mindful of what you're putting onto the blockchain with your transactions, because they last forever. Let's see. Try to try to avoid trusted third-party services as much as you can. That includes, in the Bitcoin context, making sure that you take custody of your private keys from the exchange that you bought them on. Put them into a non-custodial wallet. If you're on Android, you can use Samurai Wallet. You can use a paper wallet, as you suggested. For users who are interested in this, they can visit our website, samuraiwallet.com, and we have a section called offline mode. You can create a wallet without needing any network information on your phone. And you can take those 12 words that your wallet gives you, write them down and store them away, and then delete the wallet. Use our other app called Sentinel, which is a watch-only wallet. Put that on your phone, and you'll be able to deposit into your offline wallet. You'll be able to see your offline wallet balances, but you won't be holding the private keys with you at all times, which is a pretty smart move. When you transact, make sure that you use privacy enhancing tools, even if it's not something, you don't have to be buying something on a darknet market. One of the examples I gave Wendy was in one of my Twitter threads was, imagine you're making a donation or a tithe to your church, right? You're putting money in the offering plate, and your pastor can see, your OnlyFans subscription, right? Like, you don't want that to happen, right? And you need to be conscious of that when you're using Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency that has a public ledger.
No, I agree. And quick question. This is a piece of information I like to give to my audience. I'm curious your perspective on it, but I tell my audience to have a separate, if they're a part of crypto, if they have any crypto, it's important to have as many of these as you can. I have a phone that is strictly crypto, and on that phone, it stays offline quite a bit of the time. And sometimes I have wallets there, or sometimes I might use it for 2FA, and those phones are not linked directly to me in any way, shape, or form, because I want to make it as hard as possible for somebody to get access to me or to my money.
I have 3 phones sitting on my desk next to me right now. So
you beat me by one.
Yeah, definitely segregation of different identities is essential. You definitely don't want to have your Bitcoin wallet just sitting on your daily driver phone, right? The phone you take out with you, you go to the club with, you go, whatever. You don't want to bring your Bitcoin with you there, or if you do, you bring a very small amount of it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's a great idea, and I mean, start utilizing tools like Tor, the Tor network. It's an essential tool.
I'll have to have you come on to talk about that again.
Yeah, if you use Samurai Wallet, all you have to do is just press a button to use Tor. Like, it's so easy. You don't even have to have Tor installed on your phone.
That makes it easy.
Bundle it all in.
Yeah, because that's another topic. I can have you back on and we can talk about OPSEC for hours, because there's so many different tools and things you can do, and it gets kind of sticky. And if you guys are watching this and you're not tech savvy, you're like, oh my God, I didn't get any of it. That's okay. Take it in, rewatch it. And you can also head over to Samurai Wallets, to their YouTube channel. They had I don't remember how many pieces you guys had, educational videos, but I shared it with my audience in my Telegram group. They absolutely loved it because it's broken down so well. It's easy to understand. So I highly recommend you guys to go over to learn what Samurai Wallet does. Go to their YouTube channel and watch, because they're going to give a lot of free information there. And I've talked to you guys about utilizing free information on the internet. If I have any tech questions, I will go to Samurai Wallet and I'll ask them, like, hey, what about this? So it's good to have a network of people that are smarter than you, especially, if you're not super tech savvy. But if you're not tech savvy, I promise you'll get it. It'll all make sense. But the longer you stay in the game, and just as long as you continue to educate yourself, you'll get it. So on closing, Samurai Wallet, do you have anything to tell the audience?
No, I think you covered it well there. Definitely check out that Bitcoin privacy series on YouTube. That was 7 videos, all under 7 minutes long, that go in depth to get you to an understanding of how to analyze your own transactions on the blockchain, and use the tools that are freely available to do so. So you'll learn in less than 45 minutes a huge amount of information. I just put out a video today. It's 5 minutes. If your audience isn't aware, there was a DAO theft in 2019 that they claim they've identified the person involved, and they claim that they were able to track them through Wasabi coin mixing to do it. Now, so the last 2 days, sorry, might take too long, but the last couple of days, there's been a lot of questions about, well, how did they do that? Do they have like a specific demixing tool? Did they, whatever the deal was? Well, we got our hands on the transaction yesterday, and we spent the last few hours analyzing that transaction. And I do a 5-minute video where I show you exactly how they demix those Wasabi transactions. And I promise you will be able to follow along. It's so simple, which is not good for Wasabi users, but it's good for you to understand exactly what happened. I promise you, even if you have zero technical understanding, a child could follow along with that analysis.
Awesome. Well, after we get off of this interview, I want you to send that to me so I can put it in the description when we drop this video. Samouri Walt, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your alpha with us. We really, really appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, Wendy.